And we're live. That's a very interesting face you're using, James. We're live on the internet. Well, no,
Yes,
we're
we
not live.
are.
We are.
Well,
We are
whatever.
recording to put up on the internet later. Exact opposite of live.
Yes,
We are inverse
this
live on the internet.
is productivity and procrastination. And I'm James. That's Joe.
Hello.
And this is episode 23 of season 2.
I am so proud
Yes.
of. Are you? How you? I feel your confidence. I'm not going to
Oh,
question it.
let's see.
This is a podcast where we go from schmucks to schmoes, from procrastinators to getter doners.
Why, yes.
Why, yes, indeed. Well, James, tell me about your week.
Well, my week. My week was a little odd. Um, it started off a little rough. Um, I had a day where I just struggled with whether or not I wanted to be a normal person, you know,
Mm.
and give up everything, and just live my life and play games and do yard work and be normal. Or if I didn't. So there was a whole day, it was the beginning of the week, and I just had a day off, and
Can I ask a
I was
question?
playing an hour of 7 Days to Die, and then after that night, I would go and I'd work on my yard, and all day, I just an hour, 7 Days to Die, go out, work on my yard, an hour, 7 days. And I got a ton of stuff done. Um, my yard's like the black sheep of the whole area. So it's like if I do any yard work, it's like, whoa, he did some yard work finally. And so it was like, I was out there trimming my lawn and out there getting all the stupid weeds out of the middle of all my concrete, and um, just doing all sorts of stuff. And oh, I gotta tell you about my tree in my backyard. Remember the three prongs? I cut it down to nothing almost. Well, wow, it was like, oh yeah, I'll show you every every spot possible. Like this tree, just like last ditch effort, like send the armada. Like there were branches coming out of branches. I mean, everything's just green, green, green. Like it was like a bush, just 200,
Jeez.
200 stinking branches coming out of this thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get a chainsaw. And so yeah, I had fun and had two wheelbarrows stacked up. So then the good measure, I cut off another foot of each of those things. I'm like, you do that again, this is what you get, Stumpy. And so anyway,
Tree stumpy. It's good.
and so yeah. Um, anyway, so but I thought that was fascinating how he was responding to that. Um, but anyway, so yeah, I struggled with normal life. I was like, I'm enjoying normal life. I started planning oh, I want this in my backyard, and I want to buy this, and I started thinking, it'd be so nice to just spend time with people and have fires in the backyard and do normal life. And and so I struggled that day. I was like, why am I Why am I not doing this? And so yeah, you were gonna say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, not say something. I was gonna ask some questions.
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think caused, like, what emotions do you think caused this feeling of why don't I just make this my norm?
Enjoyment. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the pattern of playing a game and going and working on something
Mm-hmm.
and seeing immediate, results too. I mean, you you work on, like, I was just choosing a task, small task is knocking it out, that's enjoying, that process. So everything was just very rewarding, and
Mm-hmm.
then I got rewarded with going into, playing my game for an hour. And so that, and then, it was, everything was a very rewarding package. Had a lot of things I was doing. I mean, yeah, I could parallel that to how to break up my day in writing too.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's a difference. You don't see that
but
immediate. It feels like
yeah, it's
sometimes we're
very,
working and just throwing
it's
that
different.
progress into a void.
And so it was alluring, and and I had to get through it. And it was nice that you sent that um, writing, workshop thing
Mm.
in my direction, because I was like, well, and I was in that mood. I was like, I was not sure what I wanted to do, and so I just started listening to that, and it was good for me. I and that's basically what I did all week. I'm on episode 10 now, so listen to, I don't know, maybe 12 hours or something worth so far. And so that's kind of just been taking notes on what I liked about what he said, and um, I'm particularly interested in the professional side of it, like what is his professional process and all that, comparing it to what I've seen so far from mine, and his experience with the publishing and editors and various things is very, very interesting. And I like what he's saying on a lot of the character stuff. Uh, to some degree, um, yeah, I, I've been enjoying the process of listening to all
I
that.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about it cuz I listened to it years and years ago. But I remember feeling very inspired to actually write after listening to it all. And that's what got me interested in writing. Was listening to that, and granted I haven't done a whole lot with writing, but I really enjoy writing D&D character backstories, and but it's fun. It's I read a book on writing because
Mm.
I was interested in writing, but I don't remember exactly what he's going through. But again, I think it's a lot of like the same thing with your art, with my visual art, where it's like you you see these people talk about their own tools, and you take what you can that works for you.
Yeah, and just listening to the whole thing, because I once I started listening to it, I remembered that I had listened to some of it before previously,
Mm.
years back as well, and I think I stopped listening to him because I was a little annoyed about him always interjecting with his stories and talking about them and how he does things in them, like what his characters did and all these things. And I was like, I don't want any of that to taint anything that I want to do, and so I was annoyed. And I generally shut off stuff when they start talking about actual, like when they'll start reading entire clips of books and things like that. I'm like, I don't want to have like famous quotes in my head, and accidentally like, make scenes from these things. But lately I'm like, okay, I think I can section these things off in my mind. I think you know, and I mean, to a large extent, I'm not going to do it the way they did it. I mean,
Hmm.
I have my own way, and you know, some of the things.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding what tools work for you.
Yeah, I'm glad though that I'm listening. I have picked up on a few things that I want to explore a little bit,
Hmm.
and just writing down a lot of stuff on characters. I don't think I want to be as formulaic as he appears to be, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm formulaic in my own processes anyway, so I
He
probably
pumps
am.
out a lot of books. Like a lot of books.
Yeah.
Like a lot of books. It's ridiculous. Have you looked up his stuff? Like how
No.
many books he comes out with like 2 or 3 a year. Well, I don't know if that's true. It's probably more. I
He
know that he
said one to
has like
two.
I I don't exactly know.
Well,
Hang
anyway,
on, I'm
that's
gonna
what you
take a
said.
look.
Maybe he does more now. I don't really care to find out right now on the podcast. But um yeah, I mean, I'm sure he pumps out words. Um and
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. Pump out words.
yeah. He's got 71 books. It looks like
Oh,
published.
wow. Well, he said he's been working since a teenager. Um so that's impressive though.
Yeah,
71. Wow. That's a lot of stuff.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Wow.
reading through some of his stuff now. So a friend got me some like free credits till I start listening to his stuff because I tried back when like this was like released or whatever. Whenever I watched it the first time to read some of his stuff, and it didn't catch me. It didn't.
Yeah.
But a second time go through, the book that my friend introduced me to, I really enjoyed. I can't remember the name of it, but if you ask me in the comments, I'll
Cool.
tell you guys later. Um, and then I'm going through the the Mistborn series. It's a
Yeah.
three-parter book or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not too excited about that one, but
Yeah,
he's talked
I.
about it a lot. But anyway, I'll avoid that. But anyway, yeah.
It's not. It's just so dry for me. I don't know.
But I don't know. I don't know how his stuff is, but I know the advice that he's giving in his lectures are pretty
Yeah,
good for where I'm at right now, and
yeah. I really liked his
and he
advice.
definitely pumps out the work. So kudos to him. That's what That's a great. It's great. I'd love to. I mean, I probably won't have 71 books in my life, but I'd like to have a decent. I'd like to be able to pump out a book a year. That would be great.
Yeah,
And then it just matters how many years I got in me. I guess No, whoa, sorry. Um, but no, it's been good, and that really it gave me a lot of hours to just think. Is this what I want to invest my time in? Do I want to be a normal, you know, guy in his yard, or do I want to write a book? Do I want to try to pursue some of this? Um, and yeah, I do, and I just need to put in the work and uh, and make my patterns, you know, well enough to make the time to write, and you know, all of that. Um, and I have stories to write. Yeah, I think I do. I got characters I like. I got stuff I'd like to do. Um, and I think as long as you got stories to sell or at minimum you enjoy the process. I do enjoy the process. So so yeah, I struggled a little bit this week, but I ended up doing a lot of research and I put in some time. So I
That's
feel
awesome.
okay.
Nice. Yeah. This week I still haven't broken my. I haven't broken my draw every day. Um, I do have a piece to show you, James. It's not finished, but
Okay.
I'm never gonna finish it.
What?
Um, but because okay, so my friend does this thing where we do a drawing a week, right?
Uh-huh.
And this last week was buildings with a focus on perspective. And so, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If not, you may have to go to YouTube at some point and check out the video. But here is my pixel art.
Oh, I was gonna say that's the straight up pixel art there.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
The left and right thing were supposed to be tents with like stuff inside of it, but didn't get that far.
Oh, I thought they were planter boxes.
No, like the big brown things on the left and right, just like these things.
Oh, oh, sorry, I didn't even look at those yet. I just saw them in the center, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about it. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah, obviously you know what's missing there, but
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, no, I that's a great, I, that's a video game right there. I want to step out and go kill some gold slimes.
Perfect.
That's what I want to do.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, I made some art this week, and it feels good.
Good. It looks good. I like it.
I had to learn how to do some dithering and like where I wanted to because of atmospheric perspective. No, ambient inclusion, which is a fancy word for thing far away, more white than thing close because of atmosphere. So it's like I always have to like because ambient inclusion. It's like to me those are nonsense words put together.
Right.
And so I like to explain it to demystify what ambient includes. Like I sound
Yeah.
cool saying it, but I really want to just like nail home it's not as complex as it sounds.
Right. I-
Because that's just who I am.
Yeah. So that's good. I'm glad you produced that.
Yeah,
And
I am excited to have made an art piece. I'm still working on a goat. I plan on going to Walmart today to get my giant, giant or not easel, but canvas, and
see.
should be fun.
Well, that's good. Um, I would suggest going to Ross. Usually they have some huge canvases, 2 packs for
Mm.
a lot, about same price as you would get something that's half the size.
Okay, where's that at?
Anyway, Ross. It's
Okay.
yeah, just look it up. Anyway, um, yeah. So, um, once I need to make sure that I think this week I want to get in some writing because I don't want it to be there's so much to do on research that I could who knows when the end of research can be.
Right.
So now that I've jumped in the tank a little bit with the research thing, I I want to make sure I don't get off the trail too long here. So this week I want to do some writing and researching at the same time, so that I, you know, keep on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just listening to all of this, and I'm almost done now. I have like 3 more episodes or something, as far as I know. I want to watch some more videos and listen to more people and see what I can, gather,
Mm-hmm.
um, for my own styles. But I
So
don't want that to end. So
exactly. Like so here's and this is something that I got caught in, and this is why I'm warning against it. It's because I've done this, which is like you can get a sense of product like feeling productive from watching how to do things, which if not put into practice doesn't actually help you because you're just going to eventually forget about it.
right, yeah, no, makes sense.
And so
Um,
it's like you got to have that mix of practice and research. If you really want to do research, you have to like watch the video and then try implementing it in some way. So that way it sticks. Otherwise, you're just watching a video to watch a video. It's no different than doom scrolling.
no, I can see how that could be. I'm pretty much actively though watching a
Yeah.
video,
Yeah.
and
Well, I mean,
I'm
with
taking
you
notes, and
taking
I'm,
notes, I think is a big deal.
you know, I'm not just doom scrolling. But I think I understand where you can turn into that. You get like like yeah, you think you're making progress, but you're not actually, doing
Mm-hmm.
anything. Um, I I know where I'm at, like in the thing, in the whole process of writing, the ability to write a novel. I know where I'm at. I know where I'm gonna have probably the least experience, and I know, so I'm taking what I already have, writing down more notes about the things that I have no idea about yet, like actual publishing, things like that. And then uh, I like some of the stuff he says on characters and things like that. Um, but I don't think it's gonna stop me like listening to people.
No.
Um, so
I think as long as you recognize that like everyone's got their own way of doing things, and just because someone does it one way and they're successful doesn't mean that your way is wrong. It just means it's your way.
no, I don't have any problem with that. Some stuff you know I don't agree with. Some stuff I do. I mean, that's with every author I've listened to so far that has like rules and things like that. I'm like, if I have one rule, it's am allowed to break all the rules. That's my rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I feel like it, I'll break it. I don't care. Um, so you know, yeah.
Nice. All right. Is there anything else you want to? What's your goals this week? So, kind of go over.
My goal this week is to get a decent amount of writing done and a decent amount of research done, where I feel like I've progressed in both areas. That's my general goal. I want to start to get a pattern of getting better at my craft fundamentally, which research and stuff is going to help with, and practice of getting some more writing done. Um, that's I want to feel I want to develop more of a pattern of how I did that one day, where I was enjoying what I was doing, and then would do some work, and then enjoy what I was doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that, you know, a little oddly, but
Yeah.
I was enjoying all of it, but in different ways. And like what I liked about the yard work thing was after I would complete like a section of my yard in one thing, before I'd go inside, I would walk around and find what task I wanted to do next, so that I
Mm-hmm.
would have that little goal in my head. And then when I'd go back in, I'd relax, you know, cool off, play that one limited amount of time. It's very nice because 7 Days to Die is broken up into those days, so you
Mm-hmm.
know, oh, in exactly 1 hour, you know, and so then I would pause the game, get up, and I knew exactly what I needed to get, exactly, you know, where I was going to attack, and it was a goal in my head that I already had and accomplish it, and then I'd set up another goal, come back inside, rinse and repeat. And I did that like practically all day. And I really enjoyed it. And that's why I was like, man, I really like this. You know, and then I was spending so much time out there. I was like, well, I could add a this and a that, and spend some time with my family. I could,
Yeah.
you know, all these things, and then it was like, is this all worth it? I mean, you know, maybe it's just an okay, fine,
I
you know,
I
that's what I was
wonder
doing.
I wonder if there's because there isn't a world, right, where like you have to let me formulate this. Because our work feels never ending because there's no end goal, there's no there's no finite ending. Like once your yard's cleaned, it's cleaned for now. Whereas with writing and drawing, it's like, okay, we get a book out, we get a piece out. It's like these things are part of it, but it's not the whole thing. There's no done state where so you can dump 1 minute into it or every single minute of your time. And so there's like this level of never feeling finished. And that could lead to things like feeling like there's not enough time to spend with family. There's not enough time to spend with like having a bonfire, those kinds of things. And so it may be worth looking into figuring out how we can do both.
Yeah, I think I want to, you know, it's down to the patterns I was talking about earlier. You know, I need to find a pattern that really works for me. And I also know that this pattern will change if, you know, I'm able to do this for, you know, a living. And then all those hours that I'd be elsewhere are now my hours to divvy up more of these games, family, and writing. Um, so it's really like a temporary pattern, um, but enough that's going to make some real progress for me in the writing, and enough where I feel like I'm energized and, you know people, and can enjoy my life a little bit. Don't feel like I work and then I lock myself in a chamber, you know, and then I work and I lock myself in a chamber, and then I'd have to do yard work once a week. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like it's not a lot of smelling the roses, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want to create more of a balance there that, you know, I can, and I think if I find the right balance, you know, I'll actually get more production done. So experiment a little with that this week, and I'm glad I have records of, what I'm doing, so that I can kind of like make a better plan. And
Yeah.
and then I like kind of made a plan with someone that was like maybe never ending my weekend, and I think I'm just gonna do one time, and then I'm just gonna shut that down and say
Oh.
sorry. I it's like I second guessed it as soon as I said yes to it.
Oh, what was it? If you don't,
Nah, I don't want to talk
okay.
about it.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna. It's with family, and I'm like, now I'm just gonna shut that down because that's just too much of my. I already felt like I didn't have enough time this week, and I don't want to limit how much I have. But anyway, yeah, I liked the research thing. I wanna read more about what people think, because I want to gather those years of experience and take some of it so that I
Mm-hmm.
can jumpstart. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to make some of those mistakes and have to take years to figure those out. I want to be as good as I can be right from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to start reading and or listening to audiobooks. I'd
I love
prefer
audiobooks.
to read though, but
You don't have to. I don't have time for reading. It's like I want to be able to listen and drive, or and do this and do that. Like I want to be hearing it and listening, but doing menial tasks like folding laundry or doing the dishes or things where I can do it mindlessly while enjoying a story.
yeah. And I want to feel the pages and see the text and, you know, other nerdy, book
Yeah.
stuff. So it's a little different. But yeah, no, I totally understand the efficiency side of that. No, 100%. And I do that. But if I could have my choice, I have a lot of experience sitting down and when I was younger and just, 400 pages, no problem. I'll knock that out in a day or two. Sit here in this chair and just dive in, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I'd really like to do. Get that back. I liked it, but who has time for that?
Yeah.
Booktube people. I wish I could
Gosh.
be you.
Right.
Um, yeah, creating more of a balance for me is where I'm going this.
Smart. I'm excited to get back on track. Get my life back in order.
What do you mean?
From my hand being weird.
Is it fully?
It mostly. So I mean, I'm not gonna put my life on hold any longer for. But I'm excited. It's good enough that I can draw. It's good enough I can do all the things I normally do. So I think it's just a little bit more time and it's gonna heal up. So I'm not worried about it. So awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, it never happens again.
Yeah. If it does, we'll have to figure out what's going on. But
Yeah, I'll take note of what you're doing if it ever happens again.
yeah.
Anyway, so I mean, how do we apply this? How do you have any? I mean, I struggled a little bit. Are you struggling at all? That's what I want to
Um,
know.
I don't struggle, James. I've never had a struggle in my life. Um, I
Excellent.
think it's like okay. I have a friend of mine who's great, and they recently got into drawing. And I hope they continue, but I also need to understand that because I'm a person who really enjoys doing things near somebody else who's also doing the same thing. Like, I like to draw when other people are drawing, that type of stuff. Like, it's, to me, that sounds like a lot of fun. But I also have to just understand that in order to get where I want to get, I have to do all my work myself, realistically. And so it's like, I'm excited to have an art friend, but I'm also apprehensive because it means I can't forget that I also have to do art outside of that too.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to do things when someone else is doing them.
Yeah, that's definitely a common theme with you in particular.
Yes. Yeah.
So, do you think it would be valuable to start tracking how much time you spend yourself? And maybe that can help illuminate
If it becomes an issue,
whatever.
yeah. I think if it becomes an issue, yeah. But currently, it's getting back on track and drawing more now that my hand's healed. But if it becomes an issue, for sure. But I've been still drawing every day, and I haven't broken my streak. And it's like my brain tells me, "Hey, you haven't drawn today. Hey, you haven't drawn today. Hey, you haven't drawn today." So that's I really like that that my brain just won't let me forget that I haven't drawn today.
That's good. But back to the because back to the progress thing you're talking about. When you're with the friends and you're drawing, it sounds like it to you that it's more of a fun, yes, you're drawing, but it's not necessarily the time where you're seeing the real progress. The real progress is when you're separate, alone, and in your own space. Well, let me just make my final point.
Yeah.
So, if that is the case, if that is more true than not, then I would have to ask, because in my mind, I don't know what you mean by I draw every day.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing a smiley face on a piece of paper can be just as much of a day to you as some intricate, thing, elaborate, thing. So it's like to the listener, which I'm a listener, I'm like, oh, I drew every day. Yeah, okay, I doodled every day. Where's the progress though in your mind? Like,
Right.
do you draw? When do you draw and advance? I feel like every day is not a I'm advancing day. I drew every day.
Not.
So, if we're gonna ask the hard questions, it's maybe you could keep track of the days where you feel like you had some kind of a progression and not just I did my drawing, which could be in my mind, there could be a doodle day, there could be a relaxed, just a fun time draw, but you didn't really learn anything or push yourself or discover something that makes you a better artist, anything. And, so what do you have to say about that type of thing?
I just think there could be some value in recording whether or not I felt like I progressed that day. My issue is with it is it's going to give a negative connotation to days where I didn't, and it's adding negativity to a space where I don't want negativity. I think it's better for me because I don't see myself progressing like, oh, I'm going to seek out how to progress today. It's, oh, I want to do this because it sounds fun. Like, I want to make a pixel art thing because it sounds fun. And so that's what I made, and I learned along doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the negative connotation thing, which you have brought up before, and we've talked a lot of hours on.
It's like our favorite topic.
However, you use that same thing with me. You wanted me to calculate my words because you needed to see where it could potentially, where my strategies were actually going to get somebody further, and you needed to quantify that. But it's not okay for me to ask the same thing for you. I do have a solution, however. If you design a day or two or whatever into your schedule where you're going to work for a particular time, like not necessarily, just to draw, but to like immerse yourself and really like, I don't know, define it differently, and it's not just a moment to just, the same feelings apply. It's I am doing this day for a different purpose. And therefore it wouldn't have the I've got to have the same feelings to keep going thing because you've defined it differently. Mm-hmm. And it is for a specific purpose. And therefore it's not part of that streak thing. It's something separate. So you don't have to like worry about it. And then we can hear about that pushing, that aspect of it. And then we would have more of a, and heard about the struggles of that too. And not just the open-ended and the spectrum of, the daily, which could be anything right. in our minds, and very easy to continue, is where we're going at.
Well, that's the point of it, I think. Is it supposed to be easy to continue? I want it to be a positive thing, something that's building, that builds you up, builds up just positive feelings
talking
towards.
About that thing you can keep. You can have all that positive thing.
Now,
but what
specifically
about
else? your day of, or your time allotted for specifically like growth. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a good idea. Now,
because I don't want to take away from your feeling of as
long as there's not like negative association with it, then I think having a day where you're just like, I want to grow in, like, pick something and just learn about it, practice drawing it, like, make it fun. And that's to me what's so important, is like being able to choose these things, and like, I want to draw giraffes better, so I'm going to look up giraffes and break down anatomy and just all that stuff. And you can be as weird as you want with it. Like, we've talked before about a hamster man, like, break down a hamster.
I'm not just talking about exploring. I'm talking about like a set, like, hard thing or something, like something you're gonna that's like to build a skill, not necessarily, I don't know. I guess you could. In your thing, you're like daily fun thing, and then the lackadaisical kind of like explore. Well, I'm talking something a little bit harder. Just explore. I'm talking like, something that's more fundamental, or something.
Do you have
I
some
don't know.
examples? Like,
Um, no, but there's plenty, right? If you just go out there and
okay.
there's got to be some kind of art like this is a this is a difficult thing for art, but you'll learn this. I don't know. There's got to be that, right?
Maybe.
Um, I don't
Again,
know.
I
If not, whatever.
I would be hesitant to go that route if you just because it does lead to this like dreading of that time. And I do want to be clear that I
Why?
don't think you should be recording your time, your words.
What?
I've told you this
You
from the
just
beginning.
said
I
it.
didn't want.
You
I don't.
just made a point 2 weeks ago that I needed to do that.
That was when I was concerned that you're going to burn yourself out.
No, it
And
wasn't. That's not your words. You redefining why you said that I needed to
what was the
calculate it?
context?
The context was you wanted me, you said, well, we need to be able to track whether or not your method of going at it hard was going to yield growth over time. So I need you to mark down all your words so that we can see if your method's working. That's what you did. So I'm asking the same thing, basically. We need to see that you're more on the happy side of things is going to yield any real results over time, because in the spectrum of drawing every day, there's a very easy way to put a checkbox there, and there's a very hard way of putting a checkbox there. And how are we supposed to know if your method is really going to yield some growth over time for somebody the same way that mine would, unless we have some way of actually being able to calculate whether or not there's some real.
I think a good way of calculating whether there's growth on my end is through pieces that I present to show. And I think
Exactly.
yeah, and I released one today. I mean, it's not finished, but
You're good.
so I think I would say it's a testament to my process, which in both ways that it's a piece, and B, it's not finished. I think both are accurate testaments to the process, to the way I'm suggesting to do things. In that, yes, I did a piece and it looks good and I loved it and it was fun to explore, and I really enjoyed, practicing using perspective and picking all these colors and designing these things. But in the fact that it was unfinished because I ran out of time, because I wasn't able to I didn't put enough time into it because of it was ended on Friday and I didn't have enough time during the week, or I didn't make enough time during the week, however you want to phrase it. I think the second one is more accurate. It's not that I didn't spend a good chunk of time on it. It's just, it took longer than I was expecting it to, or I didn't even, so that's not even true either. I didn't expect it to take a certain amount of time. I never even considered how long it was going to take. It was, I'm making this because it sounds fun and I want to make this. And so I just worked on it. I didn't have to fight myself. I just opened it up and worked on it. And then I would close it when I was like, okay, I feel like I made some good progress. Then I would close it, and then someone's like, oh, I'll be right back. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna open it up and work on it. It felt natural. It felt like how it should feel to create something, where it was just a constant progression, but the issue is like, I didn't finish it on time, which is not great, but I think that's something that can be learned over time. But yeah, I really enjoyed creating that in process, and I'm mostly happy with the result too.
So in your mind, it's not finished. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you plan on finishing it, or
No.
you're just gonna? Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine, and that's completely a valid scenario. Um, yes, I would say the peace thing is more of what I'm talking about. Um, because we don't visually, understand how difficult you're you're giving your tasks in any way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it in our minds, or in my mind, it all you have to do is open up a piece of paper and doodle for 5 minutes, and you could
Yeah,
theoretically say
absolutely.
you're done. Um, but
And
if you
there's
did that
like
the
this last
majority
month.
of the time,
Yeah, this last month, that's been the majority of the time.
then in the mind it's okay, but where's the growth?
Mm-hmm.
Where's you know
Right.
I want to actually be an artist. Let's say I'm listening to this. I want to be that artist later on. Who wants to get to that point later, and I want to know how I get there. And so I need some kind of like understanding of whether or not Joe's method is, or some kind of hybrid between James and Joe is going to work better for me. And in order to do that, we got to have some kind of understanding of how your progress is going as you're using. And so that's why I'm basically saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
help us to understand when you have growth, or how you're pushing towards growth or whatnot. And we will be more likely to believe you that your method is working, and not just a fun little pastime. It's only going to be a fun little pastime for the rest of your life. That's basically the crux of it.
Yep. No, for sure. I would argue so if you're listening and you're like, oh, where does the growth come from? It comes from being willing to listen to the weird shit that you think of, like, oh, I want to send my friend a goat picture or a goat painting. Like, that's where growth comes from. Because it's not just, oh, I'm making a painting and I'm sending it to my friend, haha, goat. It's, I'm, you know, I'm going to go get some paints, do a little bit of research on the paints, grab my paints, get my brushes. What kind of brushes should I use? And then there's the actual practice that you're going to be getting doing this painting. And so a lot of sure, it's silly and it's whimsical even, but there's a lot of skills that you build from doing these whimsical things that you want to do, which I think doing what you want to do, you're going to learn so much more than sitting down and drawing 100 heads. Because it's and so when you're creating something silly and something that you want to show off to people because it's funny or because whatever reason you want to, it doesn't become like, oh, I want to check off this box of I've done 100 heads. It becomes, how do I make this look better? How do I draw grass in this specific way that I want to? I think it encourages your brain to think through these things rather than just putting pencil to paper. I think it's more it's I think it's just a better way of doing things.
Well, to some degree, it's kind of like unschool. You've heard that term. It's like, oh, let's, instead of going to class and doing things structurally to teach a child, it's, oh, you want to learn about airplanes, Johnny? Okay. And here's a much information as we can about airplanes. Oh, like the engine stuff? Okay, let's look at and then you just basically take it wherever you want to go, and then eventually maybe the airplane mechanic by the end of it, and that's what he wants to do, and he's discovered his way to that. In my mind, it works a lot like that kind of concept. Whether or not that's the best way, or if some kind of approach that melds
that's what we're
them
here to
both
find
together is a better approach. Is I've now unschooled myself, so we don't know, but I can see the validity in what you're doing. I guess the structural side of me, most of me, is like, okay, I can understand that, but if you hate doing 100 heads, why can't you just have a file folder with you stopped at 7, and then every now and then pick it up and do the 8th? It doesn't have to be something that you hate. It doesn't have to be something you do. I need to draw 100 heads, and I can't until I complete 100 heads. Why can't I just complete 7 today and then feel like picking up and doing the 8th? I mean, there can be some kind of balance, right?
I'm sure there is. I think it's important to, in a situation where like you feel like you want to get 100 heads done, but you're having a hard time doing it, I would challenge you to figure out how to make it fun, how to make it something you would want to do. Like, what if I'm doing 100 heads, right? But each head has to be different, but they all has to look like they're from the Disney universe. Or, I would add a level of not just head, but something else that is exciting for you to draw or practice.
Yeah, I think that's very to the person. Yeah, I mean, maybe you just hate drawing 100 heads. I get it.
Well, I'm using the 100 heads as an example, but it can be anything that feels like rigorous training for the sake of rigorous training. I do think there are fundamentals.
Why does it have to be as soon as it's I don't know. I've had thousands of hours of watching like the apprentice, ninja or whatever carry the the things of water up these hills tops, and I think to myself, where is that in you, Joe? Like, why is it, if something is like a hard, menial, stupid task, that it's got to be like pointless and not good as always having the fun thing? Like, where is that?
Because the little ninja carrying the pails of the water up the hill, he's being guided. This is what you have to do in order to become a ninja. We don't know what that is. We don't know the we don't know the route that you have to take to become what you want to be. And because we are our own teacher, we are our own task giver, I would argue that because we have to give ourselves these tasks and we have to do them, that leaning towards fun and leaning towards exploration and enjoyment, you're going to be doing these things more than if it feels like a chore. And that just might be a me thing, but it's working, and so I'm enjoying it.
Okay, I mean you're 100% like for me it's like, okay, yeah, I don't have the tutelage of this master. However, I have little snippets of paper from the master that I gathered from seeing real masters, real authors reading their real stuff. So I have little snippets of their, and there are real pictures out there, Joe, too, of like real artists who've, become famous. So we aren't totally blind to the master's tutelage. It's just not a one-on-one basis. It's like through email, through scraps of notes that we find in the morning. So to some degree, I feel like I can give myself some tasks that are more like training, more like not the fun stuff, mixed with a lot of what you're saying. Enjoying the process, if I don't enjoy the process, I can say no to it. However, I guess what I'm saying is I also don't allow myself to be cutting off things that I know I need to do that aren't fun, because the master is obviously, wiser than me. That I guess.
Do you have any
if that makes
examples
any
of this,
sense.
or?
Well, yeah, like some of the character stuff that this guy Sanderson is saying. I'm gonna test some of that out and see if some of that is gonna work for me. I'm more of a pantser discovery writer, so some of that feels like a little bit of work to me. Feels like it's not as fun. But I'm going to do a little bit more plotting than I would want, and I'm going to take some time and do that. Is it as fun as discovering my characters? No, but maybe the master in 71 books has something to say there. Maybe it turns out to be a great thing, and I enjoy doing that. Or maybe it's a good tool, and I hybridize with what I do. Make it more organic. I don't know, but I'm gonna take the time to do the tasks that isn't as fun, and because I have that little note from somebody who's better than me at this, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think there is a. I do think as long as you're. Okay, so it may sound like I'm just like anti everything that feels bad, and that's not the case. It's I don't want your hobby or your profession to feel like a chore, to feel unfun. I want that excitement and that joy to be there. And I'm not every moment you have to like be this mind-boggling happy or you're not doing it right. It's not that. It's when you think about drawing or you think about picking up the pencil, can you just do it and start drawing? Or do you have to fight yourself to do it? Because if you have to fight yourself, you're not doing it right.
How much of this, though, is really that you're not enjoying it? Or how much is it that you just have elements in your life that maybe you okay, let me give you a better scenario for you. This is what I see from what you've said, okay, in the past. You're like, hey, I've tried that. I was excited to have these hard tasks that I had put forth for myself. And once I started it, I stopped and I didn't draw for days, okay? And it kind of shut me down. Now, in my mind, I don't think it was that you didn't enjoy doing it. In my mind, it's like, how much of this really has to do with I don't want to do this, or it's hard, and how much is it I just don't have the time to make the progress that I wish I could be making in the amount of time that I have. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of a, like, you could do it if you had more time, but maybe you just don't have enough time. Maybe you have scheduled yourself a little bit too much. Maybe you don't have enough time to make the progress on these harder things because you don't have the block time to do it. And so when you sit down to do these harder tasks, you can't make those little mini breakthroughs that you wish you could, because you just don't have the allotted time to do it. I guess when I started making the progress for myself, it was when I cut out some things. I stopped playing as many games. I changed my schedule. I made it more of a pattern that allowed me to have more of a chance of success. I'm doing this when I'm fresh. All these little things I did were all just to make it more possible, so that when I sat down, had nothing against me. I didn't have any of those problems. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know that you have enough time to actually do the longer, harder things. And maybe you saw that and you gave up prematurely on those things. And could that be possibly what's going on?
No, I don't think so. I think I do have the time to do these things. I was so focused on, like, task after task after task after task, that drawing became a chore, and it was hard for me to pick up the pen, and it didn't feel like I was enjoying drawing anymore. So what I'm trying to do, and what's been working and having me enjoy drawing again, like actually wanting to pick up the pen and actually wanting to do these pixel arts and wanting to do this, want to paint, is pulling back on tasks and things that don't feel fun, and focus on exploration, and
Why
still
don't they
getting
feel
these
fun? I mean, we know why you're doing it, or at least, people have listened to more than 2 episodes.
I repeat myself a lot.
Know your scenario, but I'm more focused on, why is it not fun when what was not fun? Because for me, it's like, yeah, things can get hard, but I don't in the process of writing, I'm not ever going, this really sucks, whatever. The writing doesn't stop me. The task, the hardness, the difficult doesn't stop me. Why does it stop you?
So it's not challenging things that stop me. Like, if something's complex or difficult, that's not what stops me. What stops me are things that I'm not excited about to do, things that are not fun to do, things that are on the boring side. I love me a good challenge. So things that are repetitive and boring, like drawing like 100 heads, or working on perspective, like doing work for the sake of practice. It feels pointless when I could just be making art. It feels like a worse way of learning art. Like I said, it's not the challenging things. It's not, oh, this is difficult and hard. Like, I'm not shying away from those things. It's things that bring no joy. The things that, like, I can't look at it and be like, I wanted to make this and I think it looks good. And it doesn't have to look good, but it's, look what I've learned. It's the exploration and finding tasks or finding things I want to do, that I want to create, and using that to fuel the learning process. As opposed to, well, a master told me that I need to draw 1,000 boxes in perspective. Sure, at the end you'll be able to draw boxes in perspective very well. But I would challenge that your love of drawing has plummeted.
Well, I guess if the master is asking you to do 1,000 boxes, already learned what you need to learn from 13, you have a reason to stop when the mind is completely bored, I guess. But there's, if there's a hard task, and let's say someone says draw 100 hands, and you're still learning from the fifth one, maybe is it so much that it's boring, or are you, giving up before you're learning? Like, there has to be a love for the learning process too. And
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that you should learn what you want to learn. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn to draw hands. I'm saying you should go into things that you want to draw, and through those drawings, like, if you're drawing characters, you're going to have to draw some hands. And that might mean, like, going off to the side and doing like a little 30-minute study on hands, and then trying your hand at drawing hands. It's more of an organic way of growing as an artist, rather than, okay, I'm going to do this. Instead of like checking off the list of things you have to do, it's slowly building up on these things through exploration.
all right. Well, I mean, you're right. It is. How can we better? You already said pieces. You would basically show us some pieces every now and then.
Yeah.
And we would be able to tell, okay, well, hey, there's some push towards doing something that may not just be a doodle, that it's a something took some effort, and we would be able to quantify how things are going there. I don't think your strategy is bad at all. I just am the kind of, I need to understand whether or not it's working or not. Just like you need to understand whether mine is working by, hey, how many words did he actually produce here?
So, I don't, and I do want to rescind the fact that I think it came more of a maybe heat of the moment asking.
Yeah, I think you were losing words. Whatever debate you were talking to.
Yeah, I was probably getting heated. Because, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we did get pretty heated with one of our episodes.
And yes, I think I destroyed you in a few of those points, and your only reaction was to pull back and do what you now are doing. I don't think it's necessarily completely fallible, though, because you're right. How is anybody going to know whether or not I'm progressing, or if I don't have some kind of way to quantify whether or not be ramping up?
And it might be different because we are looking as creators, we do need to have a way of showing, especially since we are trying out different productivity methods, we do need to have a way of showing progress. I just don't want my only concern for you, and maybe me depending on progress, is I don't want it to be a negative thing. Like, oh, I wrote 200 words today, and
Yeah, you always have that fear, but I don't think it's really that worrisome at all.
yeah, I just don't
I
want there to
mean,
be a negative connotation. I don't want it to be a negative feeling because I feel like that's gonna stop us from our goals more than
I
anything
really
else.
don't think it's this negative thing is stopping any. Well, at least it's not stopping me. I mean, let's look at this week. You know, I didn't get any words done. Are these zeros like stopping me? My feet? But no, I'm. You know, it's not a big deal, and you know, just because I have an 800 word week, like let's say a few weeks back, doesn't mean that I'm like, it's just that's what it was. That's what it is. And 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 with real data, okay, I have the ability to not give myself an excuse for what really. Oh, I did great at writing this week. Well, no, I have 0 words written. I didn't really do any writing. I may have progressed in learning from a master, listening to a master, and I'm going to, apply that next week to when I do write, in some way, hopefully. But I don't think the words hurt me. They just tell the truth, and I can use the data, or I can. It's really how I handle the data. It isn't necessarily the data that makes me. It makes me feel bad. I decide how I'm going to feel based on what happens. Feelings, to a large extent, are now a choice. So, and you can go through a range of that too. You can feel bad about the numbers for 25 minutes, and then maybe you think something, and then it's like, oh, well, now I'm inspired because of that. So it's not like it's just 400 words equal bad feelings. Well, maybe there's a little bit of a progression, and now at the end I can feel really good about my future. So even if something maybe feels not so great as from your side, if you really want to become an artist, then I think you will allow yourself to go through some of the the spectrum of loss. Oh yeah, you feel bad, and then this and denial, all things, and then at the end of, okay, I can get to the next piece here. Maybe to some degree you're just shutting off once you get to that spot, and you don't allow yourself to go through a little bit of the emotional states and realize you're going to come out okay. And I don't know, is any of that crap just psychobabble, or what is it?
I don't think negative feelings are inherently bad, and I do think there is part of it's like, oh, I feel bad because I didn't do anything this week. But you can use that as fuel to get something done the next week, which I think is good. I'm exploring and trying to figure out my own process, or the process that works for me. And so I'm currently stuck into this process that I've developed. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to see it through in its purest form before making alterations to it. so that way I can see what works and what doesn't. Like, because I'm not saying my way is the right way. I don't know. I'm just saying it's a way, and I want to see where it goes.
Okay.
And I do think that we do need to have some sort of measurement and progress. Um, with writing, you have your words. With art, I have my pieces. Now, sometimes art in all its forms, writing and drawing and painting, are fickle. So it's like, if I want to draw every leaf on a tree, it's going to take me a lot longer than a pixel art castle thing. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on. So I don't think number of pieces should how I.
No, I didn't even actually think pieces.
Just, I don't know. It's. I'm trying to figure out what a good like metric would be, but I'm not certain.
I'm more interested in your emotional reaction to what. Honestly, I'm quantifying. I don't think quantity may work well with the writing, but I don't think quantity really works for yourself. I think it's probably more of like your reaction to what you did. You know, like, hey, here's this piece I did. This is how I feel about how I worked on this. This is where I feel like maybe I progressed in some way. Or, you know what, this was just really easy for me and I didn't really learn much, but I did a piece. You know, how you because we don't know your skill level. I mean, we can see it, but we don't know when you're learning something from a particular piece. You know, we can't see that. So that's what we're interested in, is the data behind the data. This is the data. Now we want to know what you think of it. Not necessarily the steps. We kind of know the steps by looking.
Hold on. Doing a thing. It's going to look weird on your side for a second, Yams.
No prob. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if you were watching... Oh, hold on. I forgot how to do this.
Is that we will all be able to see this castle.
Aha, there we go. Okay. So, kind of going over this piece, and you'll be able to see it in the recording. So I can just point. So this big brown area, that was supposed to be a tent, and same thing with James's side, over there, just above him. And then, so realistically, what I really learned through this is I got really comfy with drawing in a 1-point perspective. You know it's a 1-point perspective because all of these lines are going to this very center point. And it makes it look very realistic, and I really liked it. And it was really fun. And then my favorite part about it was trying to figure out atmospheric distortion. And so you'll notice that like up here, it's more blue, and then it slowly fades off into like atmospheric distortion. I did the same thing here. I think I messed up a little bit on this white. I think it'd be just like more white rather than darker. But, you know, people make mistakes. And then I designed these like, they were originally going to be shields, but then I was like, ooh, these banner, I like this better as a banner. And so I ended up making it a banner instead. And then I also did a thing where like
when I first saw it, I thought they were just like, I was like, I think his torches are way big. But anyway, yeah, banners. That makes a lot more sense now.
And I did started doing a thing where like things that are farther out don't have black outlines. Kind of gives them this more of a blurry look, which I liked. But yeah, I learned a lot doing this. Particularly, I really enjoyed doing this dithering into the other, and that's what you do with like little dots back and forth. Because again, I like to demystify the terminology people use because I think it's important. But yeah, got rid of the dithering, or I used the dithering. I really enjoyed using that to transition these scenes. It was a good learning process and good for getting back into Pixar a little bit too. I really enjoyed it. That's what I really learned was just, getting more comfortable with 1-point perspective, because I typically end up using a 2-point perspective, because you can have more like shapes in. It just looks more, I think, more natural. I think real life is closer to 2-point than it is 1-point, but it just depends on how you use it. I think in this situation, this is like a perfect example of why 1-point is fine. Just because you've got stuff on the side and it looks natural. And then the colors were fun to pick. And this was a blank gray wall. And I was like, that looks so bad. And so I had to go in and add all these lines for the bricks. Yeah, learned a lot. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, looks like it took some time too.
Yeah, I did. But again, for me, it was like, oh, that's cool. For me, it was easy to pick up. And it was fun just to do it. And yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a challenge. It was just, I didn't have to force myself to do it. I just did it, which I really liked.
Well, okay. Well, I would really, that's really cool being able to see some pieces and hearing your thoughts on them like that is helpful for us to get a good understanding of what's going on with your drawing career, and yeah, I think that's very helpful. And then not necessarily the amount of pieces, but just that there is some kind of a pattern over time of you doing pieces, and that's really what we want to see, as let's say I'm an aspiring artist, I want to see you're actually making pieces, and it isn't just a doodle every day and that's the end of the line. I want to know that I'm going to get somewhere when it comes to my art career if I'm listening to this, and seeing how that works. And then over time it's not about quantity, but over time is there an increase in the the spacing, or decrease rather, the spacing between these items, and to know that, hey, maybe struggles that you're going through with the rest of the things, maybe even the amount of time that you have, maybe you're decreasing some of those things, or when they naturally fall off your schedule, you don't plug something else in, but you're going, you know what, I'm going to plug more of my art in. Eventually, naturally, more a part of your life, and not necessarily such a forced thing like my strategy would be, but more of a natural progression.
And it will probably be something I'll have to revisit too. I mean, because I don't think it's, oh, you do the strategy and you stop thinking about it. No, it's making sure that you are taking steps to make doing art easy, to do your hobby easy, or do your profession easy. It's about lowering the barrier to entry. And it's easier if you have time.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, good. Right. I think we have now a good understanding of how to at least kind of calculate or have an understanding of where we're at as time goes on. And that's a big deal, because now it's not just complete abstract thoughts where, as time goes on, it's easy to smooth over your week. Well, you didn't do anything, but at least what the numbers say, and it's been 7 weeks since we've seen a picture, Joe. Maybe not think you do it. That's we now have a good way of understanding how these methods are working a little bit, or at least the third person over there listening to. So that's good.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty, well then, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I like where we're at. Let's continue.
Sounds good. Yeah, I have some closing thoughts that basically, like, just keep in mind we're still learning. We're trying to figure out what works for us, and I would recommend trying out everything and seeing what works for you, because you never know what's going to work for you. And if you have comments, thoughts, or even strategies that you use to get things done, leave them in the comments. We'll discuss them.
Well, tagging on to all, I don't necessarily, I think that we're doing an experiment kind of for everyone. We're starting at zero, and we're seeing if we can get to some finished product. And to some degree, I think we have some of the pieces figured out that will work for everybody, such as never giving up and consistently looking at yourself over time in intervals. For us, it's weekly. So those elements, this year plus now, of doing this is probably one of the most consistent things I've ever done in my life now, and that consistency is changing us, and would change, I would surmise, anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you may downplay a little bit. I mean, yes, we're still haven't done much, but we're not completely ignorant now of the processes. We are seeing some of the results. We are changing over time, and you can too, by just doing those two things. And hopefully we can use what we're doing right now and get another piece of the puzzle over time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree. I don't want to come at it like we have all the answers, because we don't yet. We have.
I'm pretty sure they know that.
Okay, good. Alrighty. Thank you for listening or watching and watching. You have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful week.